They say courtrooms are places of justice. Officer Darren Mitchell thought of them more like performance stages, where he could lean back in his uniform, flash his badge, and watch everyone play their part. Defendants tremble. Lawyers argue. Judges nod. And the cops? They usually win. That morning, he was calm. Confident. Case closed before it even started. Then she walked in. Not with the swagger of a high-profile attorney. Not with the cautious hesitation of someone who didn't belong. Just quiet steps. Purposeful. 19-year-old Ayana Moore didn't wear a power suit or carry a stack of files. Just a slim notebook. Locks tied back. Eyes forward. Calm as if she were walking into her own living room. Mitchell snorted. Loud enough for the courtroom deputy to hear. Who let the intern in? A few people chuckled. Ayana didn't blink. She just kept walking. To his shock, she stopped at the defense table, and sat. Alone. He leaned forward. You lost, sweetheart. He called out, not bothering to keep it quiet. She finally turned her head. Not angry. Not embarrassed. Just a half-second pause and a look so unreadable it unsettled him. That was the last moment Officer Mitchell felt in control. Ayana Moore was not the intern. She was lead counsel. Bar certified. Accelerated law grad. And the only reason she was in that courtroom was to take apart Mitchell's case, and his credibility, with precision. Her client, Deshaun Lewis, a 20-year-old student, had been pulled over for a busted taillight and ended up with a dislocated shoulder and a resisting arrest charge. The cop who filed the report. Mitchell. The body cam footage was conveniently lost. The narrative was that Deshaun got aggressive. But Ayana didn't walk into court to debate feelings. She came with facts. Timelines. Witnesses. Patterns. She wasn't here to win an argument, she was here to expose a lie. And while Mitchell was still smirking, Ayana stood up, addressed the court, and dropped her opening line like a silent grenade. Your Honor, today we intend to prove not only my client's innocence, but a deliberate abuse of power. You could feel the room shift. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't grandstand. She didn't need to. Every sentence she delivered was sharp. Controlled. A scalpel, not a hammer. People stopped scrolling their phones. The bailiff leaned in. Even the prosecutor looked sideways, eyebrows raised. Mitchell? He stopped smiling. Because in less than 3 minutes, Ayana Moore had done something rare in a courtroom full of routine. She changed the temperature. She wasn't loud. She wasn't dramatic. But every word she spoke landed like a truth the room had been trying to ignore. And once she started pulling at the threads of Officer Mitchell's testimony, his carefully built story began to unravel, fast. Day 2 of State v. Lewis began with Mitchell on the stand. He wore his uniform like armor, back straight, voice firm. He repeated his report word for word, like a script he'd memorized. Aggressive subject, non-compliant, resisted arrest. Ayana didn't interrupt. She just waited, flipping through her notes with quiet precision. When her turn came, she stood slowly and walked to the center of the courtroom, not a single paper in her hand. No notes, the prosecutor whispered, nudging his assistant. She didn't need them. Officer Mitchell, she began, you said my client became aggressive the moment you asked for his ID? Yes. And this occurred, what time again? Roughly 10:42 p.m. She took a few steps forward. Are you sure? Yes. No hesitation. No. She turned, now pacing. That's interesting, because according to your department's GPS vehicle tracker, you didn't stop at that intersection until 10:51. The room shifted. Someone coughed. The judge raised an eyebrow. Mitchell cleared his throat. Could be an error in the system. Ayana tilted her head. So the department-issued GPS you rely on for evidence is inaccurate? No, I'm just saying. You're saying something doesn't match. I agree. She didn't let up. Within minutes, she pointed out that not only was the time inconsistent, but the arrest form had two separate timestamps. One handwritten, one digitally logged, 10 minutes apart. And then she went in for the kill. Officer Mitchell, do you recall your radio check-in that night? Yes. Do you recall what you said at 10:56 p.m.? He paused. I don't remember exact words. She nodded to the AV tech in the back. A clip began to play. Static. Then Mitchell's voice, clear and calm. Subject in custody. No resistance. Gasps. Audible gasps. Ayana waited until silence returned. No resistance, she repeated, turning back to the stand. Would you like to correct your earlier statement? Mitchell shifted in his seat. The prosecutor was silent. That radio call contradicts everything in your written report. Either your memory is flawed, or your report is. He tried to speak, but the damage was done. The room knew it. Ayana didn't gloat. She didn't even smirk. She just walked back to her table and sat down. Calm. Controlled. Deadly. The judge called a recess. The prosecutor requested a sidebar. Mitchell looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. And Ayana? She sipped water. Jotted something in her notebook. She wasn't finished. Not even close. By the third day of trial, the courtroom wasn't just watching Ayana Moore, they were studying her. Lawyers lingered longer after recess. Reporters from local outlets started showing up, scribbling notes faster than they could process what they were witnessing. Even the clerk at the front desk admitted, she makes you lean in like it's Netflix. But Ayana didn't change. No dramatic gestures. No shouting matches. Just facts, law, and an icy calm that made everyone around her feel off balance, including the prosecution. That morning, the state tried to recover. They brought up character witnesses, tried to paint Ayana's client, Deshaun Lewis, as a habitual troublemaker, someone likely to be aggressive. They leaned hard into old-school tactics. Hearsay. Hints. Thin stereotypes. Ayana let them. Then she stood, walked to the witness stand, and held up a copy of Deshaun's academic transcript. Graduated with honors. Works 2 jobs. Never arrested. Never expelled. Not a single behavioral incident on record. This is the aggressor Officer Mitchell described. The prosecution objected. Overruled. And then came closing arguments. Ayana took a long pause before speaking. No notes again. Just her voice. Your Honor, she began, my client isn't just fighting a false charge, he's fighting the kind of story people expect to hear. A young black man accused of resisting. A police report no one questions. A body cam that conveniently disappears. And a courtroom where the truth nearly got buried, until we looked closer. She turned, slowly. This case is not about Deshaun Lewis being a threat. It's about what happens when people in power expect no one to question them. She sat down. The courtroom was silent. The judge requested a brief recess before the verdict. Everyone knew which way it was going. 35 minutes later, the judge returned. On the charge of resisting arrest, not guilty. No reaction from Ayana. Just a slow nod. Deshaun exhaled, his hands trembling. His mother cried quietly behind him. Mitchell stared forward, stone-faced. But it didn't end there. After the verdict, the judge, an older man known for his no-nonsense approach, cleared his throat. Miss Moore, he said, I've presided over this bench for 22 years. What I saw this week wasn't just impressive legal work. It was transformative. If this courtroom had more attorneys like you, we'd need fewer trials. Gasps. A pause. Then applause, from the gallery, from other attorneys, even a few jurors. Mitchell left through a side door. Internal Affairs opened a review the same day. The missing body cam footage. Suddenly found. Its contents later leaked, showing Deshawn, calm, hands raised, just as Ayana claimed. Within weeks, Ayana's name was being whispered across legal networks, podcasts, even law school panels. Offers started coming in. Interviews. Articles titled things like, "The 19-year-old who lit up a Georgia courtroom." But Ayana stayed focused. She wasn't chasing fame. She was chasing something else. "I'm not here to go viral," she told one local reporter. "I'm here to make sure the truth doesn't need a spotlight to be seen." And that's how a smirk from a veteran cop turned into the courtroom moment no one would forget. Because a young woman who was never supposed to be taken seriously walked in, rewrote the script, and walked out as a legend.